Welcome, dear listener, to another night with Whispers of the Night. Tonight, we will journey into a quiet attic where a young girl named Amelie discovers a window that can reveal the moments of lives past. Through its shimmering glass, the stories of laughter, love, kindness, and small adventures come alive. Let your body sink into comfort as you listen. Feel the gentle calm of this evening wrapping around you. The world outside may be busy and loud, but here, in this soft attic, time slows. Let your breathing settle, slow and even, as we prepare to explore the delicate threads of memory and wonder. Each moment, each flicker of light through the window carries the warmth of lives long gone and the quiet magic of hearts that notice. The beauty in the smallest of things. Allow your mind to drift gently with Amelie as past and present intertwine. Tonight, you are safe. Tonight, you are calm. And tonight, you are about to witness the extraordinary in the ordinary. Let's step softly into the attic together and open the window that watches time. Now, take a deep, slow breath, letting your body sink further into comfort. Imagine the soft warmth of the attic around you, the gentle creak of wooden floors, and the shimmering light through the window. Amelie places her hand on the glass and tilts it gently. Scenes ripple before her eyes, children laughing in a sunlit garden, neighbors sharing quiet acts of care, and moments of kindness preserved across time. Each memory glows softly, like golden threads weaving through the air. Picture yourself leaning against the cool glass, feeling the pulse of countless memories, each one shimmering gently. A grandmother smiles as she passes a note to a young traveler. A child discovers a pressed flower by a fountain and laughs softly, delighting in this small miracle. Every scene is a story, alive in its own quiet way. Let your mind float along with these moments, letting the gentle magic of the window guide you deeper into calm. Every flicker of light, every ripple of memory allows your body to relax further. Releasing tension with each soft breath, imagine the ribbon of time stretching softly around you. Past, present, and future intertwined, carrying small joys, quiet love, and the beauty of noticing the little things. You are safe, you are at peace, and your mind is free to wander through this gentle tapestry. Let your thoughts slow, your heartbeat soften, and imagine yourself walking softly through the attic, touching memories, leaving tiny notes of care in the air. Let this sense of serenity fill you completely, guiding you gently into a calm, restful state. And as the light of the window fades into a gentle twilight glow, let every worry dissolve, every tension lift. You are present, you are calm, and you are ready to drift softly into sleep, carried by the quiet, shimmering magic of memories watched and preserved. window that watched time. The attic window. Amelie had always loved the quiet corners of the old house. She would wander through creaking hallways, letting her fingers brush along the cool, polished wood, or sit by the high bookshelves in the library, tracing the spines of forgotten stories with delicate curiosity. But today, something drew her upward, as if the house itself wanted her to find it. She climbed the narrow, winding staircase to the attic, each step whispering beneath her soft slippers, carrying her closer to the hidden heart of the house. The attic smelled of history-dried timber, aged paper, and the faint, sweet scent of lavender that her grandmother once tucked into corners to keep moths away. Dust motes floated lazily in the golden shafts of sunlight that filtered through small openings in the roof, catching the light like tiny stars suspended in the air. It was quiet here in a way that felt almost sacred, as if the room itself were holding its breath. Amelie's eyes roamed the attic with gentle wonder. Stacks of old trunks lined the walls, their leather cracked and corners frayed, and cobwebs stretched from one beam to the next, delicate as lace. A forgotten rocking chair sat by a small, round table, its cushion faded to a gentle cream, as though waiting patiently for someone to return. And then, tucked in the farthest corner, half hidden behind a pile of rolled rugs and faded paintings, she saw it, the window. It was small, almost ordinary at first glance. Its wooden frame was chipped in places, painted a soft cream that had dulled over the years. But there was something about it that made her stop, something that made her pulse quicken with quiet anticipation. The glass was not like other glass, seemed to breathe with the light, catching the sun in gentle waves and shimmering as if it held a secret deep inside. Amelie knelt before it, brushing her fingers lightly over the dusty surface. Her touch sent tiny clouds of dust swirling into the light, and for a moment, she wondered if anyone had looked through this window for decades. She pressed her cheek against the cool pane and peered out, and the world outside. It was different. The garden she had tended so carefully was still there, with the old stone fountain and the rose bushes climbing along the wrought iron fence. But through this warped glass, it seemed alive in a new way. The colors were richer, deeper, as if painted with a brush she had never seen before. The sunlight didn't just fall, it danced in delicate patterns, flickering like firelight over the grass. Shadows stretched and bent in curious shapes, and for a moment, Amelie thought she saw movement figures in the distance, walking along paths she had never noticed, wearing clothes from times she had only read about in history books. Her heart fluttered. Could this be magic, or perhaps a trick of the light? She leaned closer, squinting to make out the details. There was a man in a long coat, his hat tipped slightly, carrying a bundle under his arm. He disappeared behind a hedge, and a little girl with a ribbon in her hair stepped into view. Her laughter carried faintly to Amelie's ears, as though the window whispered it just for her. Amelie drew back slightly, blinking. Perhaps she was imagining things. Perhaps the warping of the glass made ordinary moments appear extraordinary. Yet something inside her told her otherwise. There was a quiet pull in her chest, a sense that the window was inviting her to look closer, to discover something she could not yet name. She settled herself on the dusty floor, brushing aside an old quilt and returned to the window. Her hands rested lightly on the frame, and she let her eyes wander over the garden once more. The world through the glass seemed alive, layered in subtle textures of time, as though the past and present were stitched together by invisible threads. A gentle breeze slipped through a crack in the roof, stirring her hair and carrying the faint scent of roses mixed with the cool, damp air of early morning. She shivered slightly, not from cold, but from wonder. Amelie tried to describe what she saw. It was not merely a garden. It was a story, unfolding just beyond her reach. A delicate tapestry of moments, some familiar, some entirely foreign. The trees swayed with a rhythm she could almost hear, like a slow, gentle heartbeat. The fountain bubbled in quiet melody, each drop falling in perfect cadence. The figures she glimpsed moved with purpose, yet without urgency, as if time itself flowed differently in this small, shimmering world. She pressed her hand to the glass, imagining she could touch them, reach through the pain, and step into their lives. But the surface was firm, unyielding, and yet it seemed to hum softly under her fingertips, as though acknowledging her presence. Amelie could not remember ever feeling so connected to something so elusive. She tilted her head, fascinated by the way the light fractured across her vision, turning the familiar garden into a kaleidoscope of possibilities. Hours passed, or perhaps only moments. She could not tell. The attic grew warmer as the sun climbed higher, and the dust motes drifted in ever-shifting patterns. She imagined the window as a portal, not to escape from her life, but to glimpse the hidden layers of it, to see the echoes of people and moments that had long since passed. Each shimmer of the glass was like a whisper, and each shadow hinted at a story waiting to be told. Amelie felt a thrill she could not name. She imagined the lives of the figures she saw, giving them names, histories, dreams. The little girl with the ribbon could be a younger version of herself, or perhaps someone entirely different, someone whose laughter was meant to teach her something precious. The man in the long coat could be a traveler, a storyteller, or simply a shadow of memory lingering in the garden. She leaned closer again, feeling the warmth of the sun through the pane. She imagined herself stepping through the window, feeling the cool grass beneath her feet, smelling the roses as they grew lush and wild, and hearing the fountain's gentle song up close. Yet even as she imagined, she knew the window was not a doorway she could cross. It was something else entirely, a mirror, a lens, a quiet observer of worlds that existed alongside her own. The attic grew stiller as shadows deepened. Amelie pressed her hands against the glass, marveling at the way it seemed to breathe with life. She wondered how many stories were trapped within it, how many moments shimmered behind the warped surface, waiting for someone to notice. And she realized, with a gentle, almost sacred understanding, that she had been chosen, in some small, mysterious way, to witness them. A crow cawed in the distance, breaking the quiet, and Amelie started blinking. She pulled back, brushing her hair from her face. The ordinary world of the garden outside the attic window was still there, solid and familiar, but the shimmer lingered in her mind. The window had opened something within her, a sense of wonder, of possibility, of quiet magic that had always existed just beyond the edges of perception. She stood slowly, dusting off her skirt, and walked to the attic door. But even as she descended the narrow staircase, her thoughts kept returning to the window. Who had made it? How had it come to be hidden in this forgotten attic? And most importantly, what was it trying to show her? That night, as she lay in bed, she could not stop thinking of the window. She imagined the sunlight catching the glass, the figures moving in slow, deliberate patterns, the garden alive with secret life. She imagined herself returning to the attic, waiting for another glimpse, another story to unfold. And in the soft darkness of her room, with the moonlight spilling gently across her pillow, Amelie felt a quiet certainty. The attic window was only the beginning of something far larger than she could yet understand. And perhaps, she thought, as sleep claimed her gently, the world itself was alive with hidden patterns, secret rhythms, and stories waiting to be discovered. Only one had the courage to look closely enough. Glimpses of the past. Amelie could hardly wait for morning. The memory of the attic window hummed softly in her mind as she tiptoed down the creaking staircase, careful not to wake the house. Her thoughts were full of shimmering light, of glimpses, of gardens and figures she had seen yesterday, their faces etched gently into her memory. She felt a quiet pull, a longing to return, to look more closely, to uncover the stories that lay hidden behind the warped glass dot. After breakfast, she slipped quietly out of the kitchen and up the narrow attic stairs, her heart beating in a rhythm of anticipation and wonder. The sun had moved higher in the sky, spilling a softer, warmer light into the attic. Dust motes floated lazily through the beams, catching the sun and twinkling like tiny stars, as if welcoming her return. The window waited in the corner, half hidden beneath old rugs and paintings. Serene and patient as always, Amelie approached it slowly, her fingers tracing the chipped cream paint of the frame, peered through. This time, the garden outside was not only alive with color, it was alive with memory. The sunlight flickered across the grass in slow, deliberate patterns, and she noticed small ripples of movement. A figure in a long dress, walking across the yard, a child leaning over the fountain to watch the water splash. She blinked, thinking she must be imagining it. But no, the window shimmered softly, and she realized that what she was seeing was not her present, but her past. Amelie's breath caught. She had glimpsed something extraordinary. The lives that had unfolded in this very place long before her own footsteps had touched the earth. She pressed her hands against the glass, as if her touch could connect her to the moments she saw. The window was no longer just a window. It was a storyteller, a gentle keeper of memory, showing her life as it had once been. She saw her grandmother as a young girl, laughing in the garden she herself had tended so carefully. Her grandmother's hair was tied in a simple braid, much like Amelie's own, and she wore a plain dress that swayed with the rhythm of her movements. She chased a small, playful dog across the grass, its tail wagging, ears flopping as it leaped with pure joy. Amelie watched, enraptured, as the girl paused to pick a flower, turning it over in her small hands before tucking it behind her ear. The moment was quiet and unremarkable, yet it carried a warmth that seemed to ripple through the air, delicate as the fragrance of the rose bushes outside the window. Amelie's eyes brimmed with tears. She had never known this part of her grandmother's story, this small, shining fragment of a life that had lived here before her. And yet, through the window, she could witness it, could feel the gentle pulse of memory vibrating across time. She leaned closer, ordinary moments into treasures. A group of children played in the streets beyond her garden, kicking up dust as they chased one another under the sun. Their laughter echoed faintly, as if carried across decades, soft and musical. The wooden steps of a house long since gone. A man repaired a cart, his hands steady and sure, unaware that someone centuries later would be watching him through a warped pane of glass. Each glimpse was fleeting, delicate and beautiful. Amelie realized that the window did not simply show the past, it celebrated it. It showed the quiet moments that often go unnoticed, the little gestures that make up the tapestry of life, a shared smile, a hand offered in kindness, the tilt of a head in curiosity, the laughter of children chasing sunlight. These were the moments that did not make it into books or stories, yet they held a magic all their own. Amelie's mind swirled with wonder. She had always thought that history was something distant, something to be studied in textbooks or preserved in photographs. But the window showed her something far more intimate, that the past was alive, stitched into the very walls of the house, carried in the air of the streets, whispered in the rustling leaves. Time was not a flat line, but a web of moments, each one delicate and shining, waiting to be noticed. She saw herself again, younger, playing in the garden with the same little dog she had seen with her grandmother. The window shimmered, bending light and shadow, and for a moment she felt the threads of memory stretching between her and the people who had lived here before. She could almost hear their thoughts, their quiet joys, their small sorrows, could almost feel the weight of the years, as if they were gentle hands guiding her, reminding her that life was a collection of fleeting, beautiful instants. Amelie's imagination took flight. She imagined the children she saw in the streets as her friends, imagined joining them in their games, laughing with abandon under the sun. She imagined the young couple sharing secrets on the steps, their whispers floating across the years like leaves on a stream. She imagined herself walking through the past, weaving her own small story into the tapestry she could glimpse through the glass. The window did not confine her to one story. She saw festivals that had taken place in the village square, people dancing in swirling patterns, ribbons catching the sunlight. She saw quiet nights, families sitting around wooden tables, sharing meals by the flickering light of lanterns. She saw small acts of kindness, a basket left at a neighbor's door. In secret, between two friends, Amelie realized that these moments, though ordinary, were precious. They were the threads that wove the fabric of life, and she understood, with a gentle, almost sacred certainty, that noticing them was a gift. The window did not simply show the past it taught her to see, the small, quiet wonders that might otherwise go unnoticed. She lingered by the window for hours, drinking in the sights and sounds of long-forgotten days. The sunlight shifted, turning the attic golden and then soft and cool as the afternoon waned. Shadows stretched across the wooden beams, and Amelie felt the weight of the day settle gently over her. Yet she could not tear herself away. Every glance revealed something new, something previously unseen. A cat curled on a windowsill in the 1920s, a pair of shoes left carelessly by a doorway, a child picking wildflowers along a forgotten path. And then she saw a moment that took her breath away. Her grandmother, now a little older, sat by a small desk in a sunlit room, writing a letter with careful, deliberate strokes. The light fell across her hair and hands, casting shadows that seemed almost alive. Amelie could see the concentration in her grandmother's eyes, the tenderness in her movements. It was an intimate, ordinary moment, yet it carried the weight of all the love and care her grandmother would one day pass on to her. Amelie pressed her hand against the glass, wishing she could reach across the years and whisper a thank you for all the small acts of love that had shaped her life. That the window did more than show her history, it connected her to it. She could feel the pulse of generations, the quiet rhythms of life that persisted even as the world changed. And in that connection, she felt a deep, comforting sense of belonging, a reminder that even fleeting, unnoticed moments could matter, could ripple outward in ways unseen as the sun began to sink behind the hills, painting the sky in soft shades of rose and gold. Amelie finally tore herself away from the window. She descended the attic stairs slowly, her mind still dancing with images of past lives and quiet wonders. The world seemed richer now, infused with layers of memory and meaning she had never noticed before. She understood, in a quiet, profound way, that life was made of these glimpses, small, shining fragments that could be treasured if only one had the eyes to see them. That night, as she lay in bed, she closed her eyes and imagined the window once more. She saw her grandmother at her desk, the children playing in the streets, the couple sharing secrets on the wooden steps. She imagined all the moments she had yet to discover, waiting patiently in the folds of time. And she felt a deep, gentle hope that one day she would continue to notice, continue to witness the beauty of life in its quiet, fleeting perfection. Amelie drifted into sleep with the soft, shimmering memory of the attic window in her mind. She dreamed of golden sunlight, of gardens filled with laughter, of quiet acts of love stretching across the years. And she knew, with a gentle certainty, that the window would always be there. Secrets of the Window. Amelie returned to the attic the following morning, her anticipation stronger than ever. The memory of the past glimpses she had seen danced in her mind like sunlight on water, shimmering and teasing, calling her back to the quiet sanctuary of the attic window. She climbed the narrow staircase, each step creaking beneath her soft slippers, and pushed open the attic door. The room smelled of dust and time, lavender and wood, comforting in its familiar stillness. The window waited patiently in its corner, bathed in gentle sunlight that filtered through the slanted roof. Amelie approached, her fingers tracing the chipped, cream-colored frame. Her heart fluttered with expectation, a quiet thrill she could barely contain. She pressed her palm against the cool glass, as if greeting an old friend, and leaned closer to look. Today, however, the window seemed different. It shimmered more vividly, almost as if it had been waiting for her, aware of her presence. The light within it rippled under her touch, bending and refracting in patterns she had never noticed before. It was subtle at first, gentle quiver of movement where there had been only stillness, but then the glass seemed to respond deliberately to her gestures. Curious, Amelie tapped lightly on the surface. The window shivered, and the world outside shifted. The garden she knew so well disappeared, replaced by a sunlit street filled with people celebrating. Children ran with ribbons streaming behind them. Vendors laughed and called out from wooden carts, and music floated softly through the air, as if carried by invisible hands. Amelie's eyes widened in wonder. She realized, with a thrill she could barely contain, that the window was no longer merely showing her past scenes, it was responding to her touch, revealing specific moments as though it could understand her. Curiosity, she tilted her head and pressed her hand against the lower corner of the glass. Instantly, the celebration faded, replaced by a quiet kitchen in the house she lived in. Sunlight fell across a small table where a grandmother placed a cup of tea before a tired traveler. The gesture was simple, almost ordinary, but the window highlighted it, allowing Amelie to feel the warmth of that act, the tenderness of one soul caring for another. She understood then that the window did not merely show what had happened, it remembered what had mattered. Amelie's pulse quickened. She tapped lightly again, curious to see what would appear. A small adventure unfolded. A child balancing carefully on a low wall, a dog chasing its tail in delight, a basket of bread shared between neighbors who had paused their work to offer a gift. These were moments that had been easily overlooked, forgotten in the rush of everyday life, yet the window preserved them, radiant and alive, as if guarding the essence of each memory. She pressed her palm flat against the center of the glass and tilted it slowly. The world around her shifted seamlessly. She saw a festival in the village square, lanterns swaying gently in the evening breeze, their reflections dancing across the cobblestones. Friends whispered secrets to each other, sharing laughter that shimmered in the window like soft gold. A small child offered a wildflower to a stranger, and the gesture, humble yet profound, seemed to radiate through time, captured in the shimmering light. Amelie realized, with quiet awe, that the window possessed something extraordinary. It had a soul. It remembered moments people cherished but had since forgotten. Moments too small to be recorded, yet luminous in their quiet importance. The window did not judge these moments by their significance in history or society. It treasured them for the joy, the love, and the humanity they contained. She tapped gently again, experimenting with her movements. Each tilt, each brush of her fingers summoned a new memory. She saw an old couple walking slowly through a garden, holding hands as if the world had shrunk to contain only them. A group of children hid behind a fence, giggling at a playful secret. A musician sat in the corner of a quiet cafe, fingers dancing across strings, filling the room with music that was never recorded, never performed again, yet immortal in the memory of the window. Amelie felt a thrill she could barely contain. She pressed closer, imagining that if she leaned far enough, she could step into the light of these moments. Yet the window remained a delicate barrier, firm yet inviting, as if offering her glimpses but preserving the integrity of time itself. She realized that she did not need to enter these moments. It was enough to witness them, to honor the quiet, fleeting beauty of lives once lived. Hours passed unnoticed. The sunlight shifted and softened, filtering through the attic beams, casting golden patterns across the floor. Amelie experimented tirelessly, tilting and tapping, discovering patterns in how the window responded. Sometimes it required a gentle nudge. Sometimes a longer touch coaxed a new memory to appear. Each moment was a revelation, an intimate story, preserved in the ripples of glass and light. She noticed that certain gestures seemed to unlock themes. A tap at the lower right corner often revealed small acts of kindness. A hand held out to steady someone. A warm meal left on a doorstep. A smile shared across a crowded room. Tilting the glass upward and leftward, unveiled celebrations, birthdays, festivals, quiet triumphs of skill and courage. Sliding her fingers in a gentle curve across the surface sometimes revealed adventures. Children climbing trees, racing along cobbled streets, discovering hidden nooks and secret places. Amelie was enthralled. The window was not only a window, it was a teacher, showing her that life was not solely composed of grand events or historical milestones. The richness of existence was in these small, fleeting moments, each one alive and precious, waiting to be noticed. She understood, with a quiet clarity, that forgetting a memory did not erase its beauty sometimes. It simply awaited someone to honor it again. A young boy sat alone beneath a willow tree, sketching in a notebook, oblivious to the world around him. He had dropped his pencil, and a dog nudged it gently back into his hand. The moment was brief, unremarkable to any observer in the present. Yet the window framed it with a golden light that made Amalie's heart swell. She could feel the boy's quiet concentration, the dog's gentle encouragement, the soft rustling of the leaves above. It was a tiny adventure, a shared secret between two souls, preserved forever in the glass. Amelie leaned back and closed her eyes, letting the window's magic wash over her. She could feel the pulse of countless lives, all carried within this small pane of warped glass. She imagined the window as a living being, a quiet guardian of moments too small to make history, but too beautiful to forget. It remembered laughter and tears, love and kindness, curiosity and wonder, all woven into the invisible threads that connected people across time. The afternoon war on the attic grew cool as shadows stretched across the wooden beams. Amelie pressed her hand one last time against the glass, summoning a final memory, a grandmother sitting with her granddaughter, sharing stories over a warm cup of tea. The girl listened intently, her eyes wide with wonder, just as Amelie had felt herself. Listening to the window, the grandmother's voice was soft, steady, and filled with care. The moment was simple, yet luminous, a quiet celebration of connection, of love, passed gently from one generation to the next. Amelie pulled back, her fingers lingering on the frame as if reluctant to leave. She realized that the window had revealed something profound, that life was made not of grand gestures alone, but of countless small moments, each one precious, each one alive in memory. It taught her to notice, to cherish, and to honor the ordinary beauty that exists all around. Often overlooked, she stood slowly, brushing her skirt, and descended the attic stairs, her mind awash with wonder. The sunlight had softened into gold, spilling across the wooden floors and casting the house in a warm, gentle glow. Amelie felt a deep, quiet, joyous sense of belonging, not only to the house she lived in, but to the continuum of life itself, to the myriad stories held in memory, preserved like precious jewels within the window. That night, as she lay in bed, she dreamed of the memories she had seen, celebrations under lantern-lit skies, quiet acts of kindness, and small adventures that unfolded unnoticed but were luminous in their subtlety. She imagined the window patiently waiting in the attic, ready to share its secrets with anyone who would look closely enough. Amelie understood, with a gentle, almost sacred certainty, that the window was more than a mere object. It was a keeper of souls, a guardian of memory, a teacher of the heart. And she knew, as sleep carried her gently into dreams, that the secrets of the window would guide her in ways she could not yet imagine, revealing the extraordinary beauty hidden within the ordinary moments of life. Messages across time. Amelie returned to the attic on a quiet morning, her heart light with anticipation. The narrow staircase creaked beneath her steps as though greeting her arrival, and the warm smell of dust and wood filled her lungs. Sunlight streamed in through a high dormer, illuminating the attic in soft gold. And there it was, the window, quietly waiting in the corner, shimmering faintly as though it had been awake all night. Approached slowly, her fingers brushing over the chipped cream paint of the frame. Her eyes sparkled as she pressed her hand against the cool glass, watching the world shimmer and shift in response. Over the past days, the window had revealed memories of the past, celebrations, adventures, and quiet acts of kindness. But today, she sensed something newer, subtle vibration beneath her palm, delicate and insistent, as if the window itself were inviting her to interact in a way she had never tried before. She rested her forehead gently against the pane and wondered, almost aloud, whether the window could understand her beyond observation. Could it respond to her in return? Of herself, Amelie looked around the attic. An old notebook lay on a dusty shelf, pages yellowed with age. A pencil, broken at the tip but still usable, sat beside it. She lifted the notebook and carefully wrote a small note. "May your day be gentle, and may laughter follow you." She folded it carefully and pressed it against the lower corner of the glass. Her fingers lingering dot. The window trembled under her touch. Light shimmered and danced in new patterns, bending and rippling like water disturbed by a pebble. Amelie's heart skipped a beat. Of a girl in a sunlit garden, picking wildflowers. She paused, noticing a folded piece of paper tucked carefully beside a small stone. The girl smiled softly, reading the message, her eyes alight with delight and surprise. Amelie gasped, feeling warmth bloom in her chest. The window had carried her message to someone long before her own days, letting her kindness ripple gently through the layers of history. For a long moment, she simply watched, entranced. The girl tucked the note into her pocket and skipped toward a fountain, humming a tune that Amelie could almost hear. The sunlight painted her hair like gold, and the faint fragrance of flowers seemed to drift across the years, carried by the magic of the window. Amelie realized that the window was not only a witness to the past, it was a bridge connecting hearts across generations, allowing tiny acts of care to reach someone who might never have expected them. Filled with wonder, Amelie experimented further. She wrote a second note, this one shorter. You are seen. You are remembered. She placed it carefully on the glass, tilting it toward the center. He noticed a small bundle resting on the edge of a fountain, a simple message folded neatly with words of encouragement. He smiled softly, brushing away a worry he had carried for days. Amelie's small gift had crossed time, touching a life in a quiet, profound way. Excited by the possibilities, she continued. She left tiny objects beside the window, a pressed flower from the garden, a tiny drawing of a laughing dog, a small charm she had found among her grandmother's things. Each time, the window shimmered, and she watched as the objects appeared in moments long past. Someone discovered the flower tucked inside a book. A child laughed at the drawing. A young girl clutched the charm to her chest, her eyes wide with wonder. Each act, seemingly insignificant in isolation, became part of a ripple that stretched across generations. Amelie began to understand something remarkable. The window did not merely show the past, it connected hearts. It allowed kindness, joy, and care to flow through time, touching lives that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. She realized that history was not only about grand events or battles or famous people. It was also about the small gestures, the quiet smiles, the moments of tenderness that had the power to shape hearts. She experimented with subtle gestures, to a light tap, a gentle press, a tilt of the hand. Each elicited different responses. A tiny note left in the corner might reach a child skipping stones along a river, her garden. Even the softest gesture, a whisper, a sigh, a smile seemed to travel, carried by the memory of the window, reminding her that no act of care is ever truly lost. One memory stood out among the rest. She had tucked a small drawing of a bird against the glass. Moments later, she saw a boy crouched beside a quiet stream, his face lighting up as he discovered it among smooth stones. It into his pocket, clutching it close as he ran toward home. Amelie felt a delicate ache in her heart, the sweet joy of seeing someone's life brightened by the smallest of gestures. Decades before she herself had been born, the sunlight in the attic shifted, painting the room in soft, warm golds and fading into gentle amber. Amelie leaned her head against the glass, feeling the pulse of time flow beneath her fingers. Each memory, each moment she touched or left behind was a quiet song of connection. The window did not simply preserve the past, it allowed her to be part of it, to leave traces of her own warmth, her own kindness. Across generations, Amelie spent hours in the attic, leaving small notes and objects, watching the world shimmer and shift, responding to her gestures. She left a tiny ribbon in the corner of the glass. It appeared in the hands of a young girl picking bouquets in a meadow decades ago. She left a pressed leaf. It was found by a traveler resting beneath a tree. She even left a small feather, and it floated into the hands of a child, discovering the joy of a windy afternoon. Each act was small, fragile, yet immeasurably powerful. Through these experiments, in ways unseen, she realized that every action, however tiny, carries the potential to ripple outward, touching lives in ways that endure far beyond the present. The window, she understood, was a guardian of such moments, a bridge across the generations, reminding her that every gesture matters. Even as the shadows of evening began to stretch across the attic, Amelie did not leave. She sat quietly, notebook in hand, writing small notes, sketching tiny drawings, leaving traces of herself for the past to find. A gentle breeze drifted through a crack in the roof, carrying the scent of lavender and aged wood. Dust motes floated lazily in the golden light, like stars suspended in air, and Amelie felt a serene connection to every life that had been touched by the window's magic. She imagined the lives of those who would find her gifts: a grandmother pausing in her garden, a child laughing at a tiny drawing, a traveler smiling at a kind note tucked into a forgotten corner. She imagined the joy and wonder, the quiet moments of connection that stretched across decades. And in the soft glow of the attic, she realized that she was part of something larger, something enduring, the timeless rhythm of care and kindness that binds generations together. Finally, in rose and gold, Amelie placed one last note against the glass. It read simply, "May your heart always find light wherever you are." She pressed it gently, tilted the glass, and watched as a young girl in a sunlit courtyard discovered it, her eyes widening in delight. The girl's smile seemed to stretch across time and space, reaching Amelie in the quiet attic, filling her chest with warmth and joy. Amelie stepped back, brushing her hands lightly over the frame. She understood, with a gentle certainty, that the window was not merely a window, not merely a portal to the past. It was a teacher, a guide, a guardian of memory and care. It allowed her to witness lives, yes, but also to touch them, even in the smallest ways. And she knew, as she descended the attic stairs and felt the cool evening air on her cheeks, that the ripple of kindness she created would continue, unseen yet enduring, across time. That night, as she lay in bed, Amelie imagined all the small gestures she had left through the window. Notes, drawings, flowers, ribbons, feathers. She imagined the smiles they had inspired, the quiet joy they had carried, the kindness they had sparked in hearts long ago. And she felt a profound, comforting sense of belonging not only to the house and her own time, but to the continuum of life itself, to all the quiet moments that make the world luminous. Amelie closed her eyes and drifted into sleep, dreaming of shimmering light, gently by the window she had come to love. She knew, deep in her heart, that the window would continue to guide her, revealing the beauty of connection, the power of small gestures, and the secret joy of leaving traces of love wherever they could reach. And in that quiet, glowing dream, she understood the truth. Even the smallest act of kindness, if noticed, cherished, and remembered, can echo through the centuries, reminding the world that care, love, and gentle hearts are timeless. The shadow of forgotten moments. The attic felt quieter than usual that morning. As if holding its breath, Amelie climbed the narrow stairs with a soft sense of anticipation. Window waited in its corner, framed in chipped cream paint, shimmering faintly under the gentle sunlight. Its surface rippled delicately. Amelie approached slowly, her fingers brushing the cool glass. She leaned her forehead against the pane, expecting to see the familiar layers of past moments, the laughter of children, quiet acts of kindness, adventures unfolding across decades. Across the glass, soft and hesitant, like a memory trembling at the edge of being forgotten. Amelie's eyes widened as she realized what she was witnessing, a scene slowly fading, its colors paling, its forms blurring into indistinct shapes. Through the warped pane, she saw a young girl sitting by a fountain, her hands cupped around a small, bright bird. The sunlight glinted off the bird's feathers, and yet, as Amelie watched, the image flickered and began to dissolve, as if the moment itself were slipping through time, almost lost forever. Her heart tightened. She had seen many beautiful memories before, but she had never witnessed one fading away, almost erased by the passage of years. The realization settled over her like a heavy, invisible weight. Some moments, however precious, could disappear entirely if no one remembered them. The thought made her chest ache. Every fleeting smile, every small act of kindness, every quiet gesture that made life gentle and rich could vanish if not preserved. Amelie pressed her hands firmly against the glass, willing the memory to hold. It was as if the window itself were urging her to act, to honor the moments at risk of vanishing. She realized, with a quiet resolve, that she could help. She could give these fading memories a chance to endure. She sat cross-legged on the attic floor, pulling her notebook close and opening it to a fresh page. Her pencil hovered above the paper as she carefully observed the fading scene. She began to write slowly and deliberately, recording every detail she could see: the curve of the girl's hands, the shimmer of sunlight on the bird's feathers, the gentle ripple of water in the fountain. She wrote with reverence, treating the memory as something sacred, something that deserved to be preserved, not only in her mind, but in words. As she wrote, the scene on the glass seemed to stabilize, the shadow of fading memory lingering less intensely. Amelie realized that even writing about it gave the moment strength. By noticing, by honoring it, she could slow its disappearance, helping the delicate fragment of life survive. Her fingers ached slightly from holding the pencil, but she did not care. Each stroke of her hand was a promise to the memory itself that it would not be forgotten. Encouraged, Amelie began to explore other parts of the attic for objects she could leave by the windows, small tokens that might travel through time, like her notes, a pressed flower from a forgotten corner of the garden, a ribbon from her own hair, a tiny stone smoothed by the river. She placed each carefully against the glass, imagining the hands that might someday hold them, the eyes that might delight in discovering these fragments. The window responded immediately. People from the past discovering her gifts. A young boy holding a pressed flower, marveling at its color. A grandmother finding a ribbon tucked into a book and smiling softly at the delicate gesture. A child clutching a small stone, turning it over and over in wonder. Amelie realized that she was becoming part of the ongoing story of the house, of the village, and of all the lives connected through time. She noticed that some memories were more fragile than others, moments of quiet reflection, small acts of courage, tiny bursts of laughter that might otherwise fade. A mother rocking a child to sleep, a baker pausing to offer bread to a stranger, a musician humming to themselves in an empty square. These scenes flickered at the edges, nearly disappearing into the haze of time. Amelie recorded each one, letting her notebook become a repository of stories that might otherwise vanish. Hours passed unnoticed. The sunlight shifted, painting the attic in gold and amber. Dust motes floated lazily through the beams, sparkling like tiny stars, as if bearing witness to Amelie's careful preservation of memory. She realized that the weight she had felt earlier, the heaviness of forgotten time, was balanced now by a sense of purpose. She was helping the fragile, luminous threads of life endure. Amelie experimented further. She wrote letters on small pieces of parchment, addressed not to anyone in particular, but to the one who finds this moment. She tucked these letters gently against the glass, each one carrying words of encouragement, reminders of joy, or simple observations about the beauty of everyday life. She imagined their impact, a stranger, long ago, pausing to read them, feeling unexpectedly seen and cared for. The window shimmered in response, carrying her words across the invisible currents of time. She discovered that even small gestures could ripple outward. A pressed flower could brighten a quiet morning for someone who had felt lonely. A short, tender note could offer solace or encouragement to a soul she would never meet. Amelie began to understand the extraordinary power of attention. By noticing, recording, and leaving traces of care, she could preserve the fragile beauty of life that might otherwise slip away. One particular moment captured her heart. Through the window, she saw a young couple sitting on a stone bench, their heads bent close together as they whispered softly. The sunlight glinted on the edge of a ribbon the girl held, a ribbon she might have forgotten if not for the small note Amelie placed against the glass earlier. The couple paused, reading her message, smiling at the unexpected gift, and the scene seemed to pulse with a quiet, golden light. Amelie felt tears prick her eyes, the simple realization that her act of remembrance could touch lives she would never meet, yet still mattered deeply. As evening fell, painting the village in gentle hues of rose and violet, Amelie finally leaned back from the window. Her notebook was full of stories, her small tokens carefully placed beside the glass, each one waiting to ripple through time. She felt a profound sense of connection, not only to the people she had witnessed and preserved, but to the window itself and to the endless, delicate beauty of the moments it remembered. She realized that the window's magic was not only in showing the past, but in creating responsibility in the present, the duty to notice, to preserve, and to honor the fleeting, fragile threads of life that otherwise might vanish. Time was not only a river flowing forward, it was a delicate tapestry, each thread precious, each moment luminous, each memory deserving of attention. And she understood with a quiet certainty that even a small hand can help hold the tapestry. Together, Amelie gathered her notebook and tokens, carefully descending the attic stairs slowly. The house felt warmer now, alive with the quiet pulse of memories preserved and moments honored. She felt the weight of time, yes, but also the lightness that comes from purpose and care. She knew that she had begun something meaningful, a gentle stewardship of the fragile beauty of life, and that the window would continue to guide her in this task, shimmering softly whenever her presence was needed. That night, as she lay in bed, Amelie imagined the memories she had preserved, scenes of laughter, moments of quiet kindness, small adventures, acts of courage, and gestures of love. She imagined them enduring across decades, touching hearts she could never know, and weaving a tapestry of light and connection that spanned generations. Her dreams were filled with golden sunlight and shimmering glass, with children laughing, lovers whispering, and the gentle pulse of life carrying her gifts through the threads of time. She understood, with a calm, profound joy, that even the smallest act of remembrance, a single note or a tiny token, could hold immense power. By noticing and honoring the little things, she had begun to preserve the magic of moments that might otherwise fade into shadow. Amelie drifted into sleep, heart full and quiet, the attic window glowing faintly in her mind. She knew that each day would bring new memories to preserve, new moments to honor, and that her small acts of care could ripple outward, leaving traces of light and kindness in lives across generations. She understood that she was part of a living, breathing story, an enduring way, and in the soft glow of her dreams, she felt the weight of forgotten moments lifted, replaced by the radiant certainty that love, attention, and remembrance could carry across time, preserving the beauty of life itself for anyone willing to notice. Keeper of time. Amelie rose with the first light of dawn, her heart brimming with a quiet sense of purpose. The attic, usually dim and still, seemed to glow in the soft morning sun. Dust motes floating lazily through the beams like tiny golden stars. Amelie had learned its secrets, how to witness the past, how to leave notes and small objects that traveled through time, how to preserve memories that might otherwise fade into shadow. She had discovered that the window did more than show what had been. It connected hearts, allowed kindness to ripple across generations, and preserved the small, precious moments that make life luminous today. However, she approached the window with a deeper sense of understanding. She was no longer merely a curious observer or a playful experimenter. She was its guardian. She was the keeper of time. Her responsibility was clear: to ensure that the delicate, fleeting beauty of life continued to shine, that memories were honored, and that the quiet pulse of kindness and love carried forward. Amelie pressed her palm gently against the glass and felt a familiar pulse beneath her fingers, the subtle heartbeat of the window itself. She leaned closer, tilting her head to catch the light, and smiled as the glass shimmered in response. The world beyond the window rippled gently, revealing layers of moments both distant and near. Children chasing sunlight in the streets, a grandmother carefully stitching a quilt, a young couple sharing whispered secrets under a tree, and a musician's fingers dancing across strings in a quiet, empty room. It was a tapestry of life, delicate and ever-changing, yet steadfast in its beauty. Amelie realized that each day she spent with the window, she became part of that tapestry, not merely observing it, but sustaining it, nurturing it, keeping its stories alive with careful hands. She placed a small notebook and pencil beside the window ready to record the memories she might discover. She left a pressed flower tucked in a corner of the glass, a tiny token to travel through time and bring joy to someone she would never meet. The window shimmered, and she watched as a vision unfolded, a young girl discovering the flower in a sunlit garden, her eyes widening in delight, her smile bright and pure. Amelie's chest swelled with warmth. She felt the quiet joy of connection, the satisfaction of preserving something beautiful. As the days passed, Amelie continued her careful guardianship. She recorded memories as they flickered across the glass, left notes of encouragement and kindness, and placed small tokens for those who might discover them long before she herself existed. Each act was a thread woven into the larger tapestry of life, a ripple of care and attention that could reach across generations. The village, slowly and quietly, began to feel the effects of the window's magic. People discovered small tokens in unexpected places, a ribbon tucked into a book, a pressed flower resting on a windowsill, a note with words of encouragement left by an unknown hand. Each small gesture brought smiles, inspired kindness, and reminded the villagers of the beauty in everyday moments. Families lingered longer in the garden, children laughed with abandon in the streets, and neighbors paused to share small acts of care that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. Amelie observed these changes with quiet satisfaction, her eyes reflecting the shimmer of the window. She realized that the magic of the glass was not hers alone. It was a shared inheritance, a gift that connected her village across time. The kindness she left, the memories she preserved, rippled outward, touching hearts she would never know, sustaining the delicate pulse of human connection that the window cherished. One evening, as twilight settled over the village, Amelie sat quietly before the window, her hands resting gently on the glass. The sky outside was painted in soft shades of rose, lavender, and gold, the first stars beginning to twinkle in the deepening blue. Through the glass, layers of moments shimmered like a living tapestry. Children playing in the streets long ago, lovers sharing quiet whispers beneath a tree, musicians filling empty squares with the soft hum of melody, neighbors offering small gestures of care. Past, present, and future seemed to converge, each moment shining with equal beauty and importance. Amelie smiled, a deep, contented smile that reached her eyes and warmed her heart. She felt the gentle pulse of time beneath her fingers, the quiet rhythm of lives connected, memories preserved, and kindness shared. She understood that she was no longer simply witnessing these moments. She was an integral part of the ongoing story, a guardian ensuring that the beauty of fleeting life continued to shine. The window responded to her presence with a gentle shimmer, as if acknowledging her role. It seemed to ripple softly under her touch, bending light and shadow in intricate, luminous patterns. Amelie tilted her head, tracing her fingers along the frame, and saw new memories emerge. A child discovering a pressed flower left long ago, a traveler finding a note that lifted their spirits, a grandmother reading a small drawing tucked into a book. Each memory was a delicate spark, fragile yet enduring, preserved by the care she had taken to notice, honor, and share it. She understood, with a quiet certainty, that the window's magic was not limitless. It required attention, mindfulness, and love. The beauty of fleeting moments depended on someone willing to notice them, to preserve them, and to share them gently with the world. Amelie had become that someone, the keeper of time, entrusted with safeguarding the delicate tapestry of life. Night fell fully, casting the village in deep indigo shadows, the glow of lanterns flickering softly in windows. Amelie remained at the window, her eyes tracing the layers of memory that shimmered across the glass. She imagined all the lives she had touched, all the hearts that had felt a moment of joy because she had preserved it, all the smiles that had traveled across decades, and she felt a deep, profound peace. Through the window, she could see that the magic was no longer hers alone. The villagers, inspired by the small acts of kindness they discovered, began to pass them on. A child left a ribbon for a friend to find. A neighbor left a note of encouragement for another. The threads of care and attention multiplied, weaving themselves into a tapestry that stretched across time and space. Reaching far beyond what Amelie could see, she leaned her forehead against the glass one final time that night, feeling the pulse of countless lives beneath her palms. Past, present, and future shimmered together in perfect harmony, each moment luminous, each memory cherished. The window was no longer merely a portal, it was a living, breathing testament to the beauty of noticing, preserving, and sharing life's small wonders. Amelie whispered softly, as if speaking to the window itself, "I will care for you. I will honor the moments that might otherwise fade, and I will help them shine, always." The window shimmered in gentle response, as if acknowledging her promise, and the light danced across the attic in delicate waves. She rose and descended the attic stairs slowly, the quiet of the night enveloping her. The village lay peaceful. Below, lights glowing softly in windows, shadows stretching across the streets, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of lavender and earth. Amelie understood that the window's magic was alive in every corner, in every small gesture, in every act of care and remembrance. Back in her bedroom, she gazed out the window at the twilight sky, the first stars twinkling faintly. Her heart was full of joy and quiet wonder. She knew that the work of preservation, of noticing and honoring, would continue each day, and she understood deeply that she was part of a living story, a story of fleeting moments, acts of kindness, and memories preserved across generations. Amelie closed her eyes, letting sleep embrace her, the soft glow of the window lingering in her mind. She dreamed of gardens bathed in sunlight, children chasing shadows, notes tucked into corners, ribbons drifting through time, and small acts of care, weaving a luminous tapestry across centuries. Past, present, and future shimmered together in her dreams, entwined in gentle harmony, each moment preserved, each heart touched, and when she awoke, she knew she would return to the attic, to the window, to the ongoing dance of memories. She would continue to witness, to record, to leave gifts and notes, to preserve the fleeting beauty of life. For she was no longer merely a girl in an attic, she was the keeper of time, the guardian of moments, and the quiet steward of all that is precious, fragile, and luminous in the world. Amelie smiled as the first light of dawn crept through the village, brushing the rooftops with gold. The window shimmered in response, alive with stories, memories, and acts of kindness, past and present, intertwining, and she knew, with a gentle certainty, that the magic of noticing, preserving, and sharing would endure, flowing quietly through generations, touching hearts in ways both subtle and profound. Through the warped glass, she watched the world in wonder, knowing that every flicker of light, every act of care, and every cherished memory was alive, shimmering in the tapestry of time. And in that quiet, golden moment of twilight, past, present, and future gently wove together, and Amelie smiled, feeling the eternal pulse of life, love, and remembrance beneath her fingertips. As the attic grows quiet and the last rays of twilight fade, Amelie watches through the window, smiling as past, present, and future intertwine. Every memory, every small act of care continues to shine. Let yourself rest now, carried by the gentle rhythm of time, and know that the beauty of fleeting moments lives on, shimmering quietly, softly, forever.